Auston Matthews ranked as the NHL's third best setter, according to the NHL Network. Did they get the ranking right? We'll discuss that and project the top 5 Leafs goal scorers for the upcoming season. That's all coming up on today's edition of the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.
You're Locked On Maple Leafs, your daily podcast on the Toronto Maple Leafs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome into the Locked On Leafs podcast, a daily Maple Leafs-centric podcast hosted by myself, Mike DiStefano, and my co-host, Dave Morassutti. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. What's going on, Dave? How you feeling on a Friday?
Feeling pretty good. It's getting ready for the weekend. It's going to be I don't know what to have. I got a nice barbecue I'm going to on Sunday. I can't wait.
Nice. Yeah, I got a friend's birthday, 30th birthday dinner that we're doing. Actually, I think it's a brunch, actually, over at Parlor. So that's what I'll be getting up to on Sunday. But, yeah, outside of that, I did the morning show today on TSN 1050. Boy, man, I have not woken up at 4:30 in probably my entire life, actually. There would be no reason to do so. Maybe I was a newborn child, obviously, but in my conscious life, I've never, ever woken up that early before. So a little bit of a late show for all you guys. I had to, do the show and then get a little nap in afterward. But, hey, better late than never. And it's a good thing we did because we got some breaking news that's happened about 5 minutes before we sat down to record. It's a bit of a developing story, but it sounds, Dave, like Yaroslav Askarov, the talented young Russian goaltender from the Nashville Predators, who famously, wanted to get out, believes that he is not an AHL goaltender. He wants to play in the NHL moving forward, and he'll get a chance to do that. Elliot Friedman reporting that Askarov has been dealt to the San Jose Sharks. So the Sharks adding what they believe is going to be their goaltender of the future. We don't know what the return is yet.
Breaking news, we actually now do, because the trade has now been confirmed by the Sharks.
Okay.
Here it is.
Yaroslav Askarov, a third-round pick of Nolan Burke for David Edstrom, a first-round pick conditional. Curious what the conditions are on that. I'm sure we'll find out rather shortly. And Magnus Shrona. David Edstrom, I think, was a first-round pick of theirs this past season or maybe last year. He was a first-round pick, or maybe like high second-round pick. But he's a big prospect for them for sure. So they gave up one of their top prospects, not the top prospect, and Macklin Celebrini, obviously, or Will Smith, but they give up a prospect that they liked. You know what? Actually, David Edstrom was the prospect they got for Thomas Hertl, if I'm not mistaken, in the deal with Vegas. So he was Vegas's first round pick last year.
Yes, he was.
Yes, correct. So now they flip him. And they end up picking up Yaroslav Askarov. So now
we got conditions. I got the conditions on the pick.
Hit me with it.
If Vegas, if that pick of Vegas is a top 10 selection, San Jose will have the choice to transfer either their own first round pick in 2025 or the Vegas selection.
I would imagine that there's no way in hell the San Jose Sharks are going to finish ahead of the Vegas Golden Knights this upcoming season. So a top prospect, a first round pick, and then now another goaltender going the other way. Yaroslav Askarov, very talented goaltender now, San Jose Shark. All right, what do you make of the deal? Let's discuss it.
I mean, it's a shrewd move by San Jose because this morning on NHL.com, they had 3 questions for the San Jose Sharks going into the season. One of those being, who's going to take the net this year?
Well, because I think they have Mackenzie Blackwood and Vitek Vanacek, and neither have really established themselves in the last couple of years as quality goaltenders.
Nope.
So now they get a chance with a young goalie. And to be fair, Askarov has not asserted himself as a legitimate NHL goaltender either. The hope is he will turn into that. He was taken, in the top half of the first round for a reason. Very talented goaltender, still young. And they're hoping he's going to be the goalie of the now and the future. But what's interesting about this deal, and I'm with you. I think San Jose certainly good on them. They're building it right. Now they've got a goalie, they've got Macklin Celebrini, and eventually I think they're going to start, worrying about picking up some defensive prospects and start to work on that blue line. And then you can really start to get excited about what's happening with a lot of the youth in San Jose. But what really intrigues me about this deal is it's kind of a pattern that we're noticing in the NHL right now, where it seems like we're starting to see a little bit of player empowerment when it comes to the NHL, when it comes to these younger guys specifically. Like we had the Rucker McGroarty trade go down yesterday as well. He ends up in Pittsburgh for Braden Yager, and he famously did exact same situation as Askarov. Did not believe that he, belonged in the AHL and he wasn't guaranteed an NHL roster spot. So he said, "All right, move me. I'm not going to sign coming out of college." So they obliged and they made that trade. Looks like the exact same situation unfolding here with Askarov, right? They were going to try and season him up, get him some more playing time in the AHL as opposed to taking the back seat to I was going to say Pecorine. This for so long been saying that, but UC Saros, who just signed an 8-year deal, So yeah, I get it from Askarov's perspective. He wants to be an NHLer. The pay is better, obviously. The travel's better, and it's a lot. It's just overall a lot better being an NHLer. But this is an interesting kind of theme that's starting to develop here. Cutter Gauthier kind of started things earlier this past year. Remember that situation where he didn't want to be in Philadelphia and he was dodging them like at the World Juniors and stuff. And it came out that he wasn't going to sign. He wanted to go elsewhere. And eventually they made the deal. He sent him to Anaheim, and I think Jamie Drysdale was the big piece that came back for Philadelphia. So it's interesting. We're starting to see this kind of pop up a little bit more. Do you think this is just, I don't know, just kind of coincidence that, just the last year or so we're seeing this, or is this going to be kind of a trend moving forward where players they see it happening in other sports, and the kids these days, maybe they're starting to speak up and kind of want to play where they want to play?
Well, I wouldn't. The first part I think is right in that I think we're starting to see it happen more. I think it is starting to become more of a trend. But at the end of the day, though, like teams are not going to fully fulfill those requests. Like, let's say Cutter Gauthier said, "I wanted to go to Pittsburgh." Philly's like, "Well, we're not trading you there. You want out? We'll trade you where we get the best deal for you, right?" So I have a bit of that, but yeah, I do think younger players, especially ones that believe, and again, some of it maybe is bad advice sometimes from agents who think, "Oh yeah, I know you can be in the NHL next year."
Yeah.
Talk to the team, they're like, yeah, well, we don't kind of see that as a plan for you."
Well,
so
good luck. Go ahead.
That was the situation with Rucker McGroarty, right? Like,
Yeah.
Jets did not view him as a surefire NHL player. And I believe that was what Cheveldayoff kind of alluded to, right?
Well, it wasn't even that they didn't view him as that, but they said, we're not just going to give him and assure him an NHL roster spot if he doesn't earn it. He still has to come in and earn it. And I think that was kind of what rubbed the Jets the wrong way with the McGroarty deal. And I'm sure what rubbed, the Nashville Predators the wrong way with Askarov. It's like, okay, if you want to be in the NHL, come in and earn it. Like, you can't just demand, to be in the NHL because you think you're hot stuff. Like, come in and earn it, right? Come in, beat Scott Wedgwood for that backup role, right? Be good enough where you're not expendable. You know what I mean? Like, that's the mentality that these kids should have. Doesn't seem to be the case. What I will say for Rutger McGroarty, he ended up in a pretty cushy spot in Pittsburgh. We'll get to play with, Gino and Crosby, and it's a nice little landing spot. Yaroslav Askarov to be the goaltender of the San Jose Sharks, not going to be fun. Not going to be fun at all. He'll get a chance to play, but man, he is going to be under siege every single night.
Almost one of those careful what you ask for, because
Exactly.
you will get it.
Exactly. So we'll see what happens, but the San Jose Sharks seemingly getting their goaltender of the future, picking up Yaroslav Askarov. Bit of breaking news as we popped on to the podcast here. Coming up on the other side, Dave, the NHL Network wrapped up their power rankings, and they ranked Auston Matthews as the third best center. What do we think of that? We'll discuss it on the other side. And we got our Friday 5-pack. We're projecting the top 5 goal scorers for the Maple Leafs this upcoming season. That's all coming up next here on the Locked On Leafs podcast.
We're driven by the search for better, but when it comes to hiring the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. If you need to hire, you need Indeed, because Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data. And it also has a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. And Indeed doesn't just help you hire faster. 93% of employers agree Indeed delivers the highest quality matches compared to other job sites, according to a recent Indeed survey. So join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. And listeners of the show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/lockedon. So go to Indeed.com/lockedon right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire. You need Indeed.
Welcome back into the Locked On Leafs podcast. Mike DiStefano, Dave Morassutti with you, as we are each and every weekday. It's Monday, Wednesday, Friday for now. In the next couple of weeks, we'll be back to daily coverage Monday through Friday. So you're not going to want to miss any episodes. You're going to want to be locked into what's going on with the Maple Leafs. Labor Day's next weekend, pal, which means just a couple weeks after that, we got training camp, and it's go time from there. So busy. It'll come quick. It'll come quick, and it'll get busy quick. So make sure you are subscribed to the Locked On Leafs podcast, wherever you get your podcasts at, and also up on YouTube. All right. So we kind of been keeping an eye on the NHL Network's top 20 list as they put out each and every year. There's kind of a debate, a good debate that was had earlier in the week when they put William Nylander over Mitch Marner on the top 20 wingers list. And, you know, there seems to be a good handful of people in both camps. But they put out the top 20 centers list today. Auston Matthews ranked as the third best center by the NHL Network, in behind Connor McDavid and Nathan MacKinnon, just ahead of Leon Draisaitl and Alexander Barkov to round out the top 5. What did you make of that ranking? Did they get it right? Did they get it wrong? Where you at?
I don't think it's egregious. You could maybe make the case if to try to get him in the top 10. We already know Connor McDavid, he's got the number 1 spot locked down.
Yeah.
You know, some people could say you could make a bit of an argument with McKinnon because, frankly, Auston Matthews is the better defensive player while also being able to put in the puck in the net. But I can live with him at number 3. I think it's a pretty impressive list. Like if you look at this list of centers, like for him to be 3, I think most people should be able to live with that.
I mean, Nathan MacKinnon is the reigning MVP, right? So when you say top 10 centers right now, which is technically the qualification, right now Nate MacKinnon is the better player. He had the season that he was voted as, I guess, the more valuable player at the very least. But yeah, it's hilarious because you look at a guy who scores 69 goals, and it's like, man, how's that a guy just like not given, the nod there? But you know what? I think it's a correct ranking. Right now, McDavid, clear-cut number 1. MacKinnon, I'll give him the number 2 nod right now as well. But throughout the season, I mean, those guys, it is a toss-up depending on who's hot at what time. You know, there's some nights where Nathan MacKinnon looks like the better player, and then there's other nights where Auston Matthews looks like the best player on the planet. So, either or, and Leon Draisaitl coming in at number 4. I think Leon also you can put in there. it's probably a 3-pack of guys that you could really go either way. Like, even if it was flipped, Leon at 4, Matthews at 5, like, even that, there's clearly an argument to be made there, I would think, especially if you put the moniker of right now. I mean, Leon Draisaitl just went to a Stanley Cup final. That's pretty darn good. Auston
Yep.
Matthews eliminated in round 1. That ain't good. You know what I mean? But he is a 69 goal scorer, and last I checked, the point of the sport of hockey is to score more goals than the other team, and ain't no one do that better than Auston Matthews. So I appreciate him getting the little nod over Leon Draisaitl, but I think that kind of 3-pack there of Nathan MacKinnon, Auston Matthews, and Leon Draisaitl, you can really put that ranking any which way between those three. It's so tight.
Yeah, and I think people need to also remember Auston Matthews became a finalist in the Selke Trophy, number 3, and he's always up there, right? Like, he was 3 this past year, he was 10th a couple years ago. So, like, none of these other guys are getting that. Are getting that recognition, right? Barkov is obviously the only one that you will put up defensively against Auston Matthews as the top defensive center in the league, right?
Yeah,
So
undeniably the best defensive center in the league, undeniably.
So, but Matthews, like, he is the complete package. But I mean, you watch what Nathan MacKinnon did this year, like that 35-point streak at home.
Yeah,
and he had 70 points in that span.
And when Nate turns on the Jets, like, game over.
Yeah.
Like, when that guy gets going, like, he's a horse. And absolutely, Leon too. Like, it's insane sometimes what these guys can do. Anything else with the ranking? I guess I don't know if you want to toggle over and look at the other ranking all the way to 20. Anyone else who you think maybe was a little high or a little low on this one?
I mean, not particularly. I know Jack Hughes didn't have his best year, but I think he's still a guy that's gonna, put up some decent points, right? He was really good a few years ago. Injuries have kind of taken a toll on him too. Jack Eichel, I don't know how you feel about Jack Eichel being where he is on the list.
Well, like, okay, so why? You think he's too low, too high?
I look at a guy like JT Miller. Probably could have gone into the top 10.
Well, I think he was at 11. I think it was a top 20 list, right? I know this one's showing.
Yeah, I'm gonna throw that up right now for those who are watching on YouTube. I just had to, because they had to do a story for the rest of them. So we got Pettersson at 10.
Yeah.
I'll zoom in a bit more here. You had JT Miller at 11. Like, Pettersson and JT, I felt like had a case against the top 10.
Possibly.
No.
I mean, Elias Pettersson really fell off. I feel like if he kept going the way his first couple of months of the season went, he for sure would be up there rivaling within like the top 8. I mean,
I also want to make it known that the list we put up from Twitter, that's Mike Johnson's top 10. This is the NHL.com list. So people are going to be like, oh, why Sebastian Aho 12?
Okay.
So just so you can see here, like, so Jack Eichel's still in the top 10.
So let's see what this full list was. Let's start at the top. At the tippy top.
It's weird because you have to go down to the bottom to get to the top. So nothing changes in the top 3. You have McDavid, you got McKinnon, and you got Matthews. You still got Leon at 4. You got Barkov at 5.
Mm-hmm.
You got Sidney Crosby at 6. I believe Crosby was lower on Mike Johnson's list.
Yeah, I agree with that, actually. I would put Sid over Jack Hughes.
Yeah, I think Sid
right now. I mean, 2 years from now, obviously, but right now, I mean, Sid was almost dragged that team to a playoffs. Braden Point probably deserves to be there as well at this point.
He's at 7. You got Jack Eichel at 8. I know he had a pretty decent season considering he only played 63 games. Yeah, Jack Hughes at 9. Again, I think that's a fair ranking for him.
Yeah.
You got Pettersson at 10. I know he had a bit of it wasn't his best finish to the year. I feel he really struggled at the end there. You got JT Miller here at number 11, Sebastian Aho at 12, Connor Bedard at number 13.
He'll be a guy I would imagine when we redo this list a year from now. I think he'll be a little higher than that. That's a what we call a bold prediction in the biz, Dave.
You got Rupe Hintz at 14. You got Dylan Larkin at 15. You got Nick Suzuki at 16. You have Tim Stutzla at 17. Senators fans might not be too thrilled with that one. But he didn't have he had a bit of a dip in his production last year.
Yeah, I'm not too upset with that.
Robert Thomas is at 18. Mika Zibanejad at 19. And then Nico Hischier at 20.
Okay. Yeah, I mean it's actually a pretty solid list.
Yeah.
I would say it's a pretty solid list there. Notably absent, a guy who's been on that list for many, many years is John Tavares, right? Like for years, that guy was a staple on that list as the top 20 center in the NHL. Just kind of goes to show, he's just no longer what he was. He's no longer a top 20 center. He's no longer the captain. See what type of year he's got in him. Coming up on the other side, Dave. It might come up. We are doing our Friday 5-pack, projecting the Leafs' top 5 goal scorers this upcoming season. Will John Tavares be among them? We'll discuss next. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to your live event even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Game Time Picks is the curation that makes it easier to save on sports, concerts, comedy events, theater events. They've got all-in pricing. They've got your seat views. You can get a panoramic view from your seat right in the app, so you know exactly what view you're going to have before you buy the tickets. They've got the lowest price guarantee also, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, account, redeem the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What is it? Game Time. Welcome back into the Locked On Leafs podcast. Mike DiStefano, Dave Morassutti with you. And Friday, we've been doing this all summer long. Every Friday, we got our Friday 5-pack. And today's Friday 5-pack, we are going to be projecting the Leafs' top 5 goal scorers for the upcoming season, Dave. So, stemming off with the discussion of Auston Matthews, who scored 69 goals last year, Maple Leafs record, just outrageous amount of goals. Will he be able to replicate that type of season? And who else will be filling the net for the Toronto Maple Leafs this year? I've got my 5-pack. You've got your 5-pack. But let me just quickly remind people what the top 5 goal scorers were last year for the Maple Leafs. So you did have Auston Matthews at the top of the class with 69 goals. William Nylander with back-to-back 40-goal seasons. John Tavares was third last season with 29 goals through 80 games. Mitch Marner took home the 4th slot, had 26 goals in 69 games. And then Tyler Bertuzzi. For a while, it seemed like he was never going to score a goal, but then scored a bunch, all kind of in the matter of a month or so. And he ended the year with 21 goals himself to round out the top 5. So how many of those guys are going to be back on this list? Well, we know that Tyler Bertuzzi won't be. So there will be at least one new top 5 goal scorer this upcoming season. But Dave, I'll give you the floor. Give me your top 5 goal scorers that you're projecting for the upcoming year. Let's just go 1 through 5.
Yeah, I mean, Auston Matthews, number 1. No surprise there. We'll see if he can still shoot at the 18% that he did last year. He done it twice in his career, so it's not out of the realm of possibility.
It's not. Like, he's a guy who shoots 16% as is. Like that. Yeah. That's the thing about Auston. And if you even take the amount of shots he had last year and you equate it to his average of 16.2%, it's still 61 goals last season. So he still would have been a 60 goal scorer regardless. So I'm with you, obviously, health permitting, which, for all of these is the case. Yeah, Auston Matthews was also my number one goal scorer. But how many? How many goals? Does he hit 70? Is 70 kind of the mark at this point? Like not the platform, but it's like that's what you want to see. That's what he's looking
I
at
mean,
now.
he pushed so hard for it last year. Like it's almost like I'm expecting like minimum like 63, 64 for him, just based
Like if
on
he
what
hits
he's
60 on the nose, will that feel like a bit of a disappointment, I guess, is the question I have here.
Hey, it'll be a slight disappointment because we know he can get up to 69. But I mean, how many teams, how many players have multiple 60 goal seasons
Oh, like none. I mean, that's to be fair,
in the
but
cap era, right?
Auston Matthews, yeah, we've only seen it happen like 3 or 4 times in the cap era. I think just Ovi, Stammer, McDavid,
Matthews
and
twice.
Matthews, right? So, yeah, Matthews twice. So can he do it a third time? I would think so. Like 60 is almost the platform. It's like got to get to 60. Anything less than that does seem like a disappointment. 70, maybe a bit of a stretch, but certainly he should lead the Maple Leafs in goals. If he doesn't, things went very, very wrong for the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Mm-hmm.
Number 2 on your list, Dave.
It's got to be William Nylander.
Yeah.
Other than Auston Matthews, he is the best shooter on the team.
Yes, 100%. And now he's got a big fat contract. There's going to be a lot more expectation for him to fill the net as often as he can. 40 goals isn't when you're making $11.5 million, right? You can't score 40 and get a pat on the back. Now that's the expectation, right?
He's done it back-to-back years. I expect him to push for 50.
That's got to be the goal, right? That's got to be the goal. Push for 50 this year. I think another 40 goal season is good, but I think the expectation is a little higher than that. All right. We're chalk so far, both of us, with our first and second Matthew Nylander. This is where things might get a little different. So I'm curious who you got at number 3 on your list.
Well, I'm going to stick with Mitch Marner I'm going to go with Mitch Marner number 3. He was technically number 4 last year. 2 reasons. One, he only played 69 games last year and he had 26 goals. He would have passed Tavares if he played more. And contract year. There's no better time to go out and get yourself a nice big contract than going to score a bunch of goals in your contract year. Now, he can score 30. We know Mitch Marner can score 30. I don't know how much more I will expect of him to get. He was shooting at 16% last year, so clearly he can get close to that mark.
Well, he had what, 36 goals a couple of years ago, I think was his career high.
But that sounds right. He had 35 2 years ago. 35. So like, and that was 35 in 72 games.
Yeah.
So like the thing for Marner is he could get to 40 if
he's got to shoot. The problem is the guy never shoots. That's the issue. And
he had his best shooting percentage last year. Like I don't know why somebody's not saying, Mitch, you're actually like scoring more. Like
wow, when the guy next to you is Auston Matthews, you're gonna dish it over there more often than not, right? But I'm with you though right now. So we're still chalk through 3 when we're projecting the Leafs top 5 goal scorers. Auston Matthews, William Nylander, Mitch Marner coming in at 3. Number 4, who do you think is going to sit 4th on the Leafs goal scoring list at the end of next season?
I might sound boring, but I'm going to go with John Tavares. I know he is definitely seeing the dip in his production, but I think he's still motivated to again show that he can still do it. He had 29 goals in 80 games. It's not, and he was like, that's shooting 10%, right? Like I expect him to get close to, again, similar numbers next year. I know again, he is going to be taking his role, probably is going to change a little bit. But I also just think that You know what? He doesn't have to worry about being the captain anymore. He could just worry about going out and play. And hey, he's got to play for a contract too.
Yeah, that's a good point. That is a good point.
It's always a big motivator.
I didn't know where to go with this. So this is where we do have a slight difference.
Okay.
I had Tavares at number 5. I think that he'll end up as the 25th or as the 5th highest goal scorer for the Maple Leafs this season. Now, I for whatever reason didn't take a peek at the shooting percentage, but I mean, he only shot 10% last year and scored 29 goals. There's a good chance that there's some positive regression. That said, like my original thinking was we got new coaches coming in. Like they could be looking to make some changes to the power play. And maybe Tavares is a guy who doesn't get PP1 time. Like maybe Tavares is someone who comes off and Tavares is somebody who doesn't play as much this upcoming year. Maybe we see that slowdown start to come from Johnny T. So for that reason, I kind of thought, maybe we're looking at, a 23, 24 goal guy, but someone who I think could flirt into the high 20s, who I got at number 4 on my list. I think we're going to see a big year out of Matthew Nyes. Matthew Nyes came in at number 4 for me. I like what I saw last year towards the end of the season. I think Matthew Nyes is in around the net. You want to see a little bit more finish. And I think if we can get that out of him this year, he's going to score a lot of goals. It's just going to happen. He goes to the net. He plays the right way, the way that Craig Berube wants people to play also. So I think that, Matty Nyes, I think he's going to dig in this for a bunch of goals. He had, 15 goals last year in 80 games. I think he could get up into the high 20s this year and consider this and kind of break. That's my that's the real bold prediction, I guess you could say. So I got Matt Nyes at number 4, and then I that left me with Tavares at number 5.
It's a bit bold. I had Matthew Nyes at 5. I'm trying to think like who's going to take over for Tyler Patuzzi's going. Who's going to kind of replace his production? I think you just see Matthew Nyes bump up into a bigger role. He was moved around so much last year, didn't really play on the power play. So if you get some power play opportunities, if he's the net front guy, that's where you're hoping he is going to flourish.
I flirted next to Matthews and Marr too.
Exactly. So right. I flirted with thinking maybe we see. I mean, I doubt Nick Robertson's if he's still here. Maybe he's someone that they look to score more. But again, I can't put that out there if I don't know if he's going to play. And the other one was Bobby McMahon. Like the guy had 15 goals in 56 games. I think the coaching staff is going to really like him, and I think it's going to earn him some more opportunities. I just don't know. Like he was just also on such a hot pace that when he like just couldn't stop scoring, that it's like, okay, maybe there's a bit of a back down to earth for him. But I think he's someone that's you're gonna look to him. Like they're talking about like who's gonna score the goals, who's gonna replace the guys that left. You got a guy like Bob McMahon who hopefully will be healthy. Oh, speaking of Bob McMahon, I am pretty sure I ran into him at the CNE the other day.
Oh, did you say hello or you just saw him?
Well, he was with someone, and I was going the opposite way. And it was kind of like one of those like, I think I was Bob McMahon because like I was trying to like figure out at first who it was. Then someone's like, "You sure that was even a Leaf?" I'm like, "The guy's wearing an NHL PA hat." I don't think they just give those out to anybody.
Yeah, well, that's a good point. He shot 12.7% last year. So that's not even like that high of a shooting percentage.
No.
Something that he could theoretically replicate. I mean, it's above average. We'll say that. It's definitely above average, but it's not like it was, like 18% or like 20% where it's like, that's not replicable.
Like there are players last year that everyone's like, oh, this guy's on a scoring chance. Like, yeah, but he's like shooting like 25%. It's not sustainable. Average is in like the 13 to 15 range. That's like, okay, you can bank on a player to score at that rate.
Yeah, Kelly Yarncroc was another player that maybe could flirt with 20 goals. He did it a couple of years ago. An interesting one. Like, I don't think it's going to happen, but, we saw some nice goals out of Pontus Holmberg last year. And, does he take his game to the next level? Could he turn into a 20-goal guy? I don't think he'll crack the top 5, but if he could, score in the upper teens, that's some good depth scoring that the Maple Leafs surely are going to need. And you would also expect Max Domi to score more than 9 that he did last year.
Yeah, like Domi, I'll be happy if he gives me 20.
Yeah,
Because I
I'll
think
take
it's
that.
like he's not going to shoot at 6.6%.
No, give me 20 goals, 40 some odd assists. I'll take that out of Max Domi all day long at the contract that he's on right now. Give me that all day long. So there it is. My 5-pack. I got Matthews leading the pack, William Nylander, Mitch Marner. Then I had Matthew Nyes and then John Tavares, whereas Dave had Matthews, Nylander, Marner, Tavares, then Nyes. So we just kind of flipped those two. So, hey, that'll be something for us to kind of track throughout the season and poke fun at each other anytime one of those guys scores. It's like, inching closer to being right. Give us something to kind of look back on throughout the year. All right, buddy. Good stuff. That'll do it for us today on the podcast. I'd like to thank you all for listening and supporting the show. You can subscribe to the Locked On Leafs podcast on all platforms and receive daily Leafs content. Follow us on X at Mickey_Canuck. Follow Dave at D_Morassutti and follow the show as well at Locked On Leafs. We'll be back with another episode for you guys on Monday. Enjoy your weekend, folks. Until then, keep it locked right here on Locked On Leafs.